Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Jerich Show, where Javvad and I talk about timely topics and poorly present them. So, this is a high quality production done by Javvad and Erich. Having said that, let's move on. Let's get right to it here. Javvad, there's a story I think you wanted to talk about that you saw this week. Why don't you tell us what you have going on?
Yeah, this is a story, and it's somewhat related to security, and it's somewhat not related, and that's why I think makes it interesting because there's that blend. So, if you cast your minds back to the New Year's Eve of 2020, when the world was a very, very different place, um, the currency exchange firm Travelex got hit by ransomware.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and they took a battering for that because everything went offline. And if you look at their share price, it's just fallen off a cliff. Um, and this is one of the rare examples, or few real life recent examples of a company that's almost been completely destroyed because of a cyber attack, in this case, ransomware. Because yesterday it was reported the company's being put up for sale, and the owners, the FinTumbler group who own it, they've called in accountants to say, okay, we might have to go into liquidation, put Travelex into liquidation. Of
Wow.
course, there are other factors at play here as well. I mean, one, they got hit by the ransomware, and then even if they had recovered, the coronavirus and the lack of international travel probably impacted business that way as well. The third angle of this is actually the owner, whose name is B.R. Shetty, and he acquired Travelex in 2014. This is after I think the company had been around for like 34, 36 years up until that point, and he then floated it last year to the FinTumbler group, and it was valued at 1.2 billion. So you take a look at a company that just last year was valued at 1.2 billion, and today it's worth pretty much zero.
Right. Or negative if they're having to go into
Or
liquidation, right?
yeah, or negative, absolutely. And
Wow.
the other thing is the Shetty guy is apparently quite a character because he also founded this company called NMC, which is a healthcare provider or healthcare company, and it's under investigation, I think, in Dubai, for alleged fraud and debts of over 6.5 billion. So this is a cybersecurity story wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in an enigma. So.
Maybe we can get Netflix to do a special on this, right? Like the Travel King. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Oh. I was thinking like Al Capone, his whole empire comes crumbling down because of ransomware, the least of his crimes.
Right. Well, speaking of ransomware, the story I wanted to talk about this week is Torrance, California. It's out there in LA, right? Everyone's favorite city. And they got hit by ransomware. This was the Doppelpaymer. Now, Doppelpaymer is one of these kinds. It's like Maze, a couple of the other ones that does data exfiltration before it actually does the encryption, which makes things far, far worse. And then this poor city, on top of having a pandemic, running loose in the country and the world, now they're dealing with ransomware on top of it. And I thought it was pretty interesting and fairly brutal, and I feel bad for these folks. But, when you look at the ransomware thing, there were some groups that said at the beginning of this, some of the bigger ransomware gangs that said, we're not going to attack hospitals. We're not going to attack medical systems with ransomware. And some even said, if we accidentally hit one, we'll give them a free decryption key. And, it was like, oh, okay, well, that's nice words, right? But what's happened is, even if they're not hitting it, the smaller ones still are, right? But this is just brutal for an organization, for a city like this, in the middle of all this, right? I mean, people are unemployed. There's programs that need to feed these people. There's programs that need to help these people out. All this city stuff is just shut down for this right now. And we know, from our experience and talking to people and seeing the results of this, it doesn't matter. Even if they pay the ransom, they're going to be down for a while, right? It doesn't just flip the switch and they're back on and running. Data gets corrupted. You can't just leave it at that. So in the middle of all this nightmare where people are scattered to the wind, now the city of Torrance, California, has been nailed by ransomware, and it sucks. I mean, it really does suck. So what are your thoughts? How's ransomware up in the UK right now?
It's strange. It's not that prominent as it is in the US, and maybe there's fewer targets compared to the US. Obviously, it's still an issue, but not as much. We haven't heard a lot of major ones taking place yet.
Maybe since you left the EU, they can't find you.
That's right. They can't get across the border anymore.
Hey, we got to try to figure something out.
What I find interesting is in that story, it reminded me of this quote, and I can't remember who said it, and I'm going to butcher the quote now, but it was like some CIO at a FTSE 100 company, and he said something like that companies don't actually realize that they've become digital companies now, or organizations or any department. It's like you go to sleep thinking you're owning a logistics or a manufacturing company, and you wake up and you're running a software development firm.
No, that's a good point. That really is, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is why we see so many firms organizations, departments, government bodies get affected so badly by things like ransomware, because they haven't really clicked on to the fact that they are a software organization now. They're not really a physical one. And if you take the software or services offline, there's very little they can do.
Well, that's an interesting point, too. And the other side of it is a lot of folks, believe it or not, still don't understand ransomware, and I just did a couple webinars yesterday. One was for a bunch of not-for-profits, and there were a lot of questions about ransomware, and they even had me go back and do like what is ransomware exactly, which blows my mind at this stage of the game, right? But the thing about ransomware that a lot of folks don't think about either is they look at their stuff and they go, oh, I don't have any information anyone wants. Right? The problem is you want that information. You need that data to keep your doors open and to do your work. And that's what makes ransomware such a powerful thing. Is it doesn't matter if anyone else wants your data. You need it. And a lot of organizations, I think, don't consider it from that angle. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So unless you got something else to add to that, you got any closing statements for this week?
Don't forget, you are a software firm now, a software organization. Even as an individual, you are generating data that is of value to other people. So I think that's something just to bear in mind. Probably not something people want to talk about at this time, but it's something to bear in mind.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. And, just want to say to everybody out there, stay safe. We're in the middle of this COVID-19 thing still going on. Lots of confusion, lots of unknowns. The more of that we see, the more things like phishing we see hitting people, smishing, just kind of crazy stuff. So stay safe, keep your eyes open, and, take care of yourselves, folks. Thanks for joining us.